What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hodl My Beer show. Super excited. I have AA Stack on here today. We're going to talk about the kind of intersection of Bitcoin and real estate, pros and cons to both. Although there seems to be, at least from what I've heard from him, a little bit more cons to the real estate side of things. So I'm super excited for that. Obviously, we have some big news with GameStop coming out today and saying that they're adding Bitcoin or planning to add it to their treasuries. That was released by them directly, so we did verify that. If you're a first time listener, obviously I don't have any sponsors on this show. The only thing that I recommend for not recommend, but hope that people do is go check out opensats.org. Bitcoin develop. It's essentially a charitable organization that donates to Bitcoin developer related projects. People that are working on this network, not knowing where their paychecks are going to come from, and it's super critical. If you've been in this space for a long time, Bitcoin's winning. It's doing very well. But it only continues to win as we continue to innovate and develop, and we have people dedicated to protecting and advancing the network. So that being said, we'll kick it off. AA, welcome to the show. Happy to have you on here.
How are you, bro? Thanks for having me, Trey. It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad to talk about some real estate and Bitcoin with you, and try to try to see if we can save some souls from the real estate world.
I love it, dude. So real quick before we get into, we'll obviously get into your background kind of naturally because you're in real estate investing right now. How'd you get into Bitcoin? What was like the moment for you? I guess where you realized the power in this thing and started to really take a heavy look at it.
It was early 2020. I was just trading with a buddy of mine. I was trading some altcoins and Bitcoins and some penny stocks. And I read a little bit about it, but I was just trading it, trying to make a quick buck here and there until I did some of my um, technical analysis and I went a little bit heavy on Bitcoin. And it turns out that a couple of days after that, FTX collapsed and it went down. And I was like, I'm not selling my bags,
Yeah.
And that it was funny enough because what that did, it was, I just started reading about it and learning about it a little bit more since I was so negative on it. I was like, let me learn a little bit more about this. And it was the best decision. Actually, that trade, that single trade was the biggest, most profitable decision I ever made.
So
Even though
you
it was,
lost so you lost money on a trade and then you were kind of like fuck this and then
I didn't lose because I didn't sell.
got
But
it.
I was very negative on that trade on Bitcoin because I went a little heavier because I was expecting a bounce, and it turns out it did the opposite, and I didn't sell. I'm not selling this asset.
Yep.
I was a little bit orange pill, so I was like, this is coming back, but I wasn't fully orange pill.
Got it.
So I took that time, that period to learn more about it, and actually I just doubled down since then, all the way.
Ye- Yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel like most of us have similar stories too, of messing around. Like it seems like you were actually trading, and actually knew a little bit about what you were doing. In my case, it was more so, pick the funniest meme coin and try to make some money off of it. And
Yeah.
then you go down that route. Luckily I only got burned for about $1,000, but it happens. So you're in real estate full time right now?
No, I have my full time. I work full time as a registered nurse in a local hospital.
Okay.
But you know, through the years, been investing a little bit on real estate. I mean, nothing huge, just a few doors, about four doors right now,
Okay.
and some of them I have a couple that are short-term rentals, a couple that are long-term rentals, and that's it. Before I really found Bitcoin, this is the way, that was
Yep.
the way I had planned for my future and my my generations uh, to come. But after finding Bitcoin and getting Orange Pill, I changed my mind a little bit on that.
For sure. So you were doing like obviously you have the short-term rentals, you have some long-term rentals too, right? Some
Yeah, I
stuff
have
like that.
a couple long term and a couple short terms Airbnbs.
Got it. Were the long-term rentals like did you do any value add stuff to these? Did you do any renovations or was it just like turnkey?
Uh, Two of them on the long terms. One of them was pretty much buy and rent. I didn't have to do much, even though I had to this year actually. I had to replace the AC and the washer and dryer. The other one, the washer and dryer. And the other one, I had to do a little bit of cosmetics, interior renovations
Yeah,
to try to make it appealing, for the renters. Because
got
there's
it.
a lot of competition here in South Florida and Miami. So if you want high quality tenants, higher quality,
Yep.
then you want to make sure you offer something with quality as well in order to get those tenants. If not, you're gonna be even the good ones give you headaches. Imagine having these low
Yeah.
quality tenants.
Yeah.
So
And,
yeah.
and for those of you guys that don't know, my full-time career right now is actually lending money to real estate investors. So, we lend on fix and flips, we lend on rentals, and especially in South Florida, I do a ton of business down there. We lend on the new construction homes going up, and that was always my kind of fear of getting into real estate was the headache of it. You know what I mean? And I think for a lot of people, they think it's the only way to like secure wealth into the future, which is why they do it. Because that was for me. It was like, yeah, the cash flow might be 100, $200 a month. After all your expenses, it might be. If you bought a really good deal, maybe it's $500 a month. But the real payoff is a long time horizon, right? It's 20, 25, 30 years down the road. And appreciation, which we all know in this community is just a reflection of the inflation of the money, right? A lot of times the appreciation on these properties is a lot lower than the rate of money printing, right? Unless you're in a super super desirable area. So that was kind of always my I guess my issue with getting into real estate. Now, have you like with that being said, I'm sure you have some stories on, like were you optimizing for cash flow at all? What sort of cash flow are you
So, since you mentioned it, I want to tell you before I started in real estate, I was just a saver. I just wanted to save money, go to work and save money for the future. That's all I wanted. Then I realized that was a losing strategy. And I used to listen a lot to and read a little bit about Robert Kiyosaki because he's when you're in real estate, you try to listen to these guys that have been in real estate for a long time.
Yep.
And then he would always say, cash is trash, savers are losers. And I was like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean savers and losers are losers? So inflation, every money that you put away on your bank account, it just doesn't pay you anything and is devaluing at a really high rate. You just don't realize it. And I didn't realize it, but I was a saver before getting into real estate. I just wanted to go to work, save some money for the future, hopefully retire in a better than I was. And then I listening to this guy and learning a little bit, I realized that that was a losing strategy. That's pretty much wasting your time. So then I was like, okay, what's the next best thing out there? Or what's the best thing in order for me to make this money work for me in the future and my family? This money that I don't need at the moment, and I don't want to have it in a bank account, just losing value. Where do we go? Gold. I was never gold, even though Robert Kiyosaki talks about gold and silver a lot. I was never into it. I didn't do any research on it. I just didn't care for it at all. But then real estate was always my thing. Like I was like, damn, I like that. I have a couple friends that they talk about real estate. They hold real estate for a long time and they see the value going up. This is the way. I
Yep.
had a long term horizon. I was never into flipping houses, never care about it. I was always going for that little cash flow, that little two, three, four, $500 extra month. If my property is getting paid, somebody's paying for my mortgage. That's a savings account in my mind. That's what I thought about it. So I have a savings account and I have a little extra cash here and there for after expenses. That works out. That's perfect. But I never really went into understanding what goes behind the scenes because everybody talks about that. That's the focus. Cash flow, um, appreciation, value over time, but they don't tell you the cost that comes with it. The time that takes to deal with these properties, the money on repairs sometimes, evictions. So that's the downside that people don't really focus on. Everybody focuses more on, and that's why I got into real estate because I was focused on the cash flow, appreciation over time.
And
Hopefully, I
the
retire with
debt
a
pay down. Yeah. Yep.
debt pay down, those little depreciation when you do your taxes, some other perks that comes with it as well. But that
Y-
was mainly my focus, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you said something super interesting. 2 points there. The whole gold bug thing always it always trips me up a little bit because the people who are gold bugs are like very similar to the Bitcoiners in the sense that like they know the money's fucked up, right? Like they know things. The only difference between Bitcoiners and gold bugs is how we fix it, right? And they think it's gold and they think it's. But when you think of like the thing that's always so strange to me, and maybe it's because I was in Bitcoin first, but like you can't verify the gold. So like the government has already fucked things up this month, but or this much rather, but then you're also saying I want to put my money into something that I can't see and have to trust that is going to be there, you know? Like that just never made sense to me.
That made sense to me, but also what didn't make sense to me at all, especially after learning about Bitcoin, is the fixed supply. We know gold has doesn't have any fixed supply. Every week or every other week, you find news about somebody found new gold somewhere. You know,
Yep.
so to me, just that aspect itself, it's just it makes the whole difference between one and the other. Second, also portability. Let's be honest. Who carries gold or has some gold safe in their house? It's a safety issue, and also it just doesn't make any sense. And I know people, when they talk about gold, they're thinking about doomsday. People are just walking around with a little bit of gold and they're gonna change their goal. To me, that's very out there, very realistic, unrealistic. So let's be
Well,
honest, Bitcoin
well, if
is way
with
superior than gold in every single sense.
yeah, agreed. And I would say too that like the doomsday scenario, if it were a very like you know apocalyptic scenario, gold is not going to be the
Uh,
currency. The currency is going to be guns, ammo, and food, and canned food.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that's the like I I always joke with Bitcoiners. I'm like, you guys should have a ton of Bitcoin, and you guys should have guns, ammo, and you know guns, ammo, and canned food.
And
And
food, yeah.
the only reason I say that is because like at this point, the only cracks in the Bitcoin network are like doomsday scenarios, right? Like internet goes out all over the world, quantum computing, fires off nukes. Like all of those things that are bad for Bitcoin are also bad for humanity. So, it's like if
And if that comes, brother, we're gonna be very. I mean, at least I'm gonna be very primitive. I'm just gonna be very focused on safety and saving, and safety for my family and my close ones. Uh, Most likely, if you own any gold and you're trying to transact on gold, you're gonna be the first guy to be gone. Pretty much,
yeah,
because they're gonna take it from you. A bunch of guys are gonna just come and take it from you. So I don't think about. I just think it was good. It served a purpose for many, many, many years. It does still serve a purpose of, jewelry and other
yeah, there you go.
utilities. But
There it is. A little bit
there
of,
you go.
you know?
I remember buying my first gold chain, which I don't wear anymore, but it's cute and everything. For jewelry, is perfect. I do like for jewelry gold, especially white gold. But as a store value, what I'm trying to do here with my family is store value for me, for my daughters, for generations, for my family. I'm not thinking short term at all. I know this is
Yep.
a long term play. And that's my focus. Everybody has different goals in life. That's my main goal right now. I don't want to be that guy working because I see it every day at 65, 70, hating their
Yep.
jobs. And they're just doing it because they have no other choice, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. No, I hear you, man. And my whole point that I was trying to make with that is that like Bitcoin is pro humanity. You know what I mean? Like if all the incentives are aligned and if something happens to Bitcoin, there's probably a bigger problem that we
Way
all
bigger,
yeah,
way
there's
bigger.
probably a bigger problem that we have. So you got into, and the other point I wanted to make is you talked about like the fix and flip thing. I do want to like do it justice, right? Like if you're talking about storing wealth very far into the future, then I think Bitcoin is superior to real estate. I think there's no question. What I would compare the flipping to in the real estate game is almost like how there are traders now who are trying to, whatever, leverage MicroStrategy and make money. Like it's a, it should be treated as a full time job, right? And you better know what you're doing or you're going to get wrecked. Because that's the only place in my mind in real estate where I would take money and I would, um, like actually try to make more money, right? Because when you do like an actual real estate flip, for those of you guys who don't know, you're typically targeting 100% cash on cash return, which means that if you invest 50 grand, you're going to make 100 grand in the next 12 months on the flip. Very good ROI, right? Like I think real estate still has its merit there. But again, you better know what the fuck you're doing or else you're going to get, or else you're going to get wrecked.
So Trey, let me ask you, so with this market, how things are right now, is flipping still a thing? Is profitable? Do you see those numbers, those returns, or is a little because before I got into real estate, it was like that. I mean, I will see the guys flipping and making huge tons of money on the return. But how about now in this market conditions? Because I know the interest rates are pretty high and it's not the same. So you still can get good deals flipping.
Yeah, I think you can definitely get, and what I was more referring to is the cash on cash return, right? So I don't think like the big margins are there, but I think there's lenders like, I mean, our space included, where people are lending you 90% of the total cost of a project. So I'm saying if you can get into a flip for 50 grand down and, after all costs and profits and everything, you're going to make more than 50 on your end. Like in my mind, that's a good investment. You know what I mean? I just think it falls into a different category of real estate. Like what we're kind of talking about here is that long-term rental, like buy it and kind of forget about it type of thing.
Correct. Yes.
And that's like, that's a different model. Like flipping is more like trading, in my opinion, in the Bitcoin world. And you better, again, whether you're trading or whether you're flipping, look, a lot of people lose a lot of fucking money. So you better
You
know what
better
you're
know.
you yeah,
Definitely, you
you
better know what you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah, no, in my case, I never went into flipping. I never had I never look into it, never either have anybody trying to get me into it either. Because, sometimes that's also somebody, if you have somebody close to you that's doing it, you kind of like, hey, let me try, or he's like, yeah, let me show you how to do this and we'll do it.
Yep.
I'll show you a couple of strategies and then you go on your own. But that was never my case. My case was always like long term, where do I store my value? This money that I don't need, where do I put it so it can grow? Hopefully, that was my mindset before Bitcoin. Pretty much when I went to real estate.
Yeah. And it makes sense too. Like Bitcoin was probably a pretty smooth transition for you once you got it because you before real estate you were the saver, right? Like you already
I was
knew
a
like yeah,
saver.
yeah, you were already like, hey, I want to put my money away and not fucking touch it and I want to just be rich in 30 years. You know what I mean?
That's
Like
it.
you
Yeah.
yeah. And then you went to real estate seeking that out. So what are some of the things I think we've talked about this before, but for some of the listeners, like, what are some of the things that you're dealing with real estate right now, or that you've dealt with that really make you think that like you're trying to get into Bitcoin more and real estate less?
Well, first, let's focus on the goal. What's the goal? So my goal is to have a money that works for me and is giving me returns year after year. So hopefully I can be better off later on, not only for myself, but for my family, right? So we put these two categories together. One, you just buy and hold. You just gotta, you don't have to do anything else pretty much. You just gotta deal with the volatility, especially if you have a long time horizon like I do. And you understand. It's very important. You understand what you're holding. It doesn't bother you, it doesn't phase you. Actually, you're looking for opportunities all the time to buy more. The other one, on the other hand, it depends on the person. Let's say you're full time into real estate. This is all you do. You wake up in the morning and that's all you do. Maybe you don't see it as negative as I do, but do have a full time. I do have a family. I do have a daughter that they
Yep.
require time. And now on top of that, I have to deal with these other issues, which renters, fixing, time driving, because some of the fixes I could pay for, but some of them they're not worth paying for because I could do it myself and save the money, right? So it's time consuming. Some of the tenants are respectful and they appreciate what you do and they treat your property with respect. Some of them they don't care. They're gonna be there for short term. They just don't care. So they break things, they treat things badly, and then you have to fix it. Then trying to deal with them to try to get that money back is also a hassle. So that's the downside of real estate. Time consuming and also expensive because nowadays just replacing anything costs you an arm and a leg, just to replace it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking about, replacing a water heater or whatever it was. I'm sorry, air conditioner, washer dryer,
Water heater too, since you mentioned it, water
yeah,
heater too.
water heater too. I mean, like that's where like the cash flow, it's not really cash flow because it all
There you
gets
go.
yeah, it all gets eaten up at some point. I do think the debt pay down is again, I think the debt pay down is a huge portion of it, but you also brought up a really good other point. Like we're not talking about full-time real estate investors here. We're talking about people that are like you, right? Like the average person who works a job that, is like doing this on the side just to figure out how to store their wealth. Like
Correct.
dude, if
Exactly.
you're a real estate investor or you want to be an investor and go actively pursue 50, 100 doors, like, yeah, that payoff's going to be huge, but you're putting the time in to do that, right? Like, there's a
A hundred
balance.
percent.
There's a
Yep.
balance to that trade off. And so I think, you know, but for the average Joe, that's just like, hey, how do I save my money, while working my job? I don't want to manage 20 doors, right? I don't want to go out and actively find stuff like that. That's where I think Bitcoin is so powerful because there's a lot of people right now, including people that I deal with, that are trying to buy 3, 4 properties a year with their full time job just because of this whole conversation. Just because
A
they're
hundred percent.
trying. That's Bitcoin's biggest, not, I shouldn't say biggest. That's one of Bitcoin's biggest use cases that most people in the US get, right? Like if you're in a third world country and you're talking about, hey, your currency's being inflated, hey, the bank, they've probably been to the bank before and not been able to cash out deposits, right? So like they get that. They get that aspect of Bitcoin of, hey, my bank, I can't take out deposits or it's super expensive for my husband to Western Union money home for me and they take a bunch of fees and all that could, there's no way for them to save. People get that in those other countries. If you're a refugee and you're coming to the US, that use case makes a lot of sense. But it's hard for people in the US and like the developed countries to understand and put themselves in those shoes. So like if you're in the US and you're like, "Well, yeah, but that could never happen here." One, it could. It definitely could. And two, the other thing is the use case here right now that you should be focusing on is, hey, I just don't want to lose my fucking money. That's it. Like that's the use case. Is like I want to put it here and I want to not touch it and I want it to go up, year over year until I'm ready to pull it for whatever I need. So I think that's kind of a great point that you brought up with the, you know, the balance between your work life and your real estate investing.
Yeah, mainly that's where the people that we're talking about mainly are those folks like myself, a bunch of professionals like me that have this extra money, nurses, doctors, anesthesiologists, whatever. They do make a little extra every month and they just want to save it. They just want to have a vehicle to save it. And some of them they are being forced to buy stuff without knowing. the downside. They're like, oh, real estate, I heard about this opportunity. I'm buying my second home and as an invest. I'm like, think about that twice. And then you try to tell them and they think you don't want them to, they take it the wrong way. I just wanted to make sure um the downside too, because everybody talks about the good things, but nobody tells you about raising your taxes suddenly, which I
Yep.
had to deal with. As a total unexpected, like on one of the properties, they almost double my taxes. And whatever cash flow you think you were making, it's completely gone now. Now you're spending money every year on that investment for
Yeah,
sure.
and in that case, you either raise
People
the
don't think
rents.
like that.
No, but what happens there? If you guys are listening to this, if you're an investor, what happens if they double your taxes? You either raise the rent, and if you're lucky, the tenants pay them. But what usually happens when you try to raise the rent is now you have to find a new tenant. Now it sits vacant for 30, 60, 90 days. Now all of your cash flow is eaten up. So yeah, you got the tenant to cover the taxes, but now you had to cover a mortgage for 90 days. Like
Exactly.
those are the those are the
You
things.
know,
Yeah.
and that's what I meant. That my message is pretty much to people like me. Just if that's what your goal is, don't even try that, bro. Just buy and hold Bitcoin, and you're gonna see the return there. Whatever you're looking for, you're gonna pretty much, especially now, since we're so early. That's why I'm pounding the table, especially on the people that I work with sometimes. I try to open their eyes and be like, just buy and hold, forget about it, don't even look at it. Just set up a recurring buy, forget about it, and look at it 5, 10 years later. And you don't have to deal with the real estate issue, bro. So my plan is to hopefully next year just keep my personal property and get rid of all those the other stuff and go into Bitcoin 100%, because
Got it.
that's pretty much what I own. I don't own anything else. I don't own any stocks or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just pretty much those properties and a little bit of Bitcoin.
Yep. No, I get it, man. That makes a lot of sense. And I think the cool thing too is like when I first got into the space heavy, it was last bull run. Obviously knew about it before and knew about it as early as 2013. Was a
Wow.
broke college kid. So I didn't buy any of it. And then in 2017, my cousin, who told me about it in 2013, he was in the big block camp in the block size war. So he was a Bitcoin Cash guy. So any money I had went into Bitcoin Cash. That all went to shit. So 2020 was when I was like, all right, I'm going to stop listening to other people and just like do my own research on it. And then started getting in then. Um, that I think what's cool though is like watching the asset become more versatile. And what I mean by that is like when I first got in like heavy in 2020, like dollar cost averaging wasn't even a thing. You know what I mean? Like Strike, Swan, River, all these companies, a lot of them were like just starting off, at that point in time. That was like um, the big window, I guess, for companies that wanted to get into space. And I highlighted obviously the Bitcoin only companies, but those are the ones where they're like, you go in, you set your recurring buy and you forget about it. And that's been so big for like me talking to my family members and like getting them to understand this. Cause I'm like, look, they literally have a feature. This is what it was meant for. It's meant to just set it and forget it. Let them take $1 a day, $5 a day, 50 cents a day, whatever it is. Let them just take it, forget about it, and you're gonna be fine. And so like my mom and my dad are both now like texting me about Bitcoin, which is sick. My dad's trying to figure out how to roll over his pension into it now. I got him started. He's very similar to me, so I know once I
Oh,
got him, all I had to do was introduce him to the rabbit hole and dangle the carrot. Now he's full. He's full bore,
that's
in
awesome, bro.
the rabbit hole. But those like tools like that are so helpful, and they didn't exist. They didn't exist, when a lot of us first got into this.
That's very powerful. The DCA strategy is so powerful. People undermined how powerful that is, and it doesn't matter how much. how much you put in daily or weekly, whatever it is. Because in this asset is so young, when you compare it to other assets, but at the same time, it's so powerful because in such a short time has become the top probably five. I don't know the number nowadays, but it's the top five, top 10 most valuable assets. And I do believe it's gonna be number one in the next 5 years, bro. I mean, so imagine that DCA strategy in the next 5 years is gonna pay off so much.
Yeah, I don't think it stops either. I
It won't
think one.
stop,
No, I know the
but what
returns
I'm
are.
saying,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, what I'm saying is a great time to just start and doing it and just buy and hold,
yeah.
daily, weekly, whatever it is.
Well, I think like risk adjusted. Like this is the best time to come into Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like early on,
100%, a
yeah,
hundred percent.
early on it was like, yeah, you could have bought it at $500 a coin, but like during the block size war, you didn't even know if the network was going to be there one morning when you woke up, right? Like that was a crazy event that happened. And obviously it made it through it. It made the network stronger. It made Bitcoiners stronger. Now you have nation states buying it. You have companies buying it. It's like whenever I'm like, hey, shit, am I putting too much money into Bitcoin? I'm like, oh, Sailor's got billions in this. Like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of been, that's kind of been my thought process with all of it. Have you looked into going off of like the maturing of the asset? Have you looked into like some of the Bitcoin lending products that are coming out or have come out already or anything like that?
Well, let me go back a little bit before we touch that. Risk adjusted, since you mentioned it, that's exactly why my DCA in 2020, 2021 was $10, $15 a day. And
Yeah.
now my DCA is $70, $100 a day. You see?
Yep.
Because even though it was cheaper back then, it was way riskier than it is now. So just to touch on that. I have not, to answer your question, I have personally not looked into those lending uh companies, to be honest. I think where we going is gonna be, because right now there's this private exchanges and companies that are offering some, and I hear about really good ones too. Personally, I haven't looked at it because I have personally not any interest right now on it.
Yep.
But what I'm looking for is for huge banks like the City of the Worlds and the Bank of Americas and those institutions to offer those services, a little bit more established companies in the future and not too far away. I think in the next 5 years, by 2030, we'll have these banks offering many, many services to Bitcoiners, lending or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So
I
that's what I see it.
yeah, I think too when those things come out, to your point, you got to be very careful with who you're dealing with because in order to get collateral, in order to post Bitcoin as collateral for you, those of you guys don't know, like it's got to be held with the custodian, whoever that is, whether that's Chase Bank, whether that's Citi. The reason I brought it up is because Strike's launching a Bitcoin backed, loan product. And the reason that I find this interesting is because if you use these products responsibly, you'll never have to sell your Bitcoin, at least for the foreseeable future. Like right now, for me, it's like, dude, I'm 100% allocated. So I spend on a credit card every month, right? Like my paycheck comes in, I pay my rent, I pay my car payment. That's it, right? Everything else goes into Bitcoin. All my other spending on the month, goes on goes on the Amex here, and then I pay it off at the end of the month. But it gets paid through Strike, so that's a taxable event, right? So if I make money on Bitcoin, again, that's a good thing, but it's a taxable event that I have to sell it. So what's going to be really cool about these lending products, again, and I say this again, do this responsibly. Don't get super leveraged. But what's going to be cool is, when you get enough, like a big enough Bitcoin stack, you're not going to have to sell it. You're going to be able to just hey, the Amex bills due this month. Say this year I spend, whatever, $100,000 over the course of the year on the Amex bill. If Bitcoin goes from a million to 2 million, right? I got all that gain and my $100,000 was on my loan. You know what I mean? Like I didn't
Mhm.
sell, I didn't miss any of that window. So like as this stuff becomes more available to people, I think that's going to be a very, very good thing. Again, I think you're going to have to check with custodians and make sure you know who's holding your Bitcoin. I'm personally a huge fan of Strike. I've been following Jack Mallers and Strike since they launched it. So those are the type of things that I think people are going to have to look into and be careful with. But I'm super excited for it because think about it now. Why do people sell Bitcoin? It's because they have to, right? You have to pay bills at some point, right? You got to live your life. If there's a product in the future that makes it so you don't have to sell it, you can get free fiat paper money and continue living your life. I think that's super powerful. But go ahead.
No, I was just mentioning. You just said it. Just be careful whenever you are making decisions like this, especially with your Bitcoin. Don't think lightly about it. Just take your time to research what the offer is, the terms, because the last thing you want to do is lose your Bitcoin, man. That's the last thing.
Yeah.
So that should be your last choice. And if you decide to lend some, just make sure you lend 10, 20% of it. Never go 50%, 60%. Just
Nope.
try to keep it very, very low, enough to get whatever it is that you need at the time, and let the appreciation happen and take care of it, or if you have any cash flow coming in, and never, even if you're lending in Bitcoin, I would recommend never stop stacking. Just
Yeah,
stack on the side.
exactly. That's the
you know
that's the point,
you
right?
always you
Yeah.
always want to you always want to have more sats today than you had yesterday. That's the whole
Yep.
thing, regardless of your strategy. Just try to get more sats today than you had last week, and
Yeah.
I think you're gonna be fine.
Agreed, man. Agreed. And that's a huge point too that you just brought up. It's like if you take a loan out on this stuff, don't try to live on it, right? Like keep doing what you're doing. Keep adding more value to the world than you're taking from it, right? And in the sense of like dollar terms. And keep adding to your stack. But that's the cool thing, right? Is if you don't have to sell it and you keep adding to it, yeah, you have a loan against it. That kind of sucks. But Bitcoin keeps going up over the long term, and you can keep adding, keep adding to your sats as opposed to selling them whenever you need something. I'm getting into the age where like I'm looking at buying a house. I have a serious girlfriend, looking at having a family, like those sort of things. So like that's what really intrigues me about this. It's not like, hey, let's go take a loan and go pop bottles at Live. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
it's
we're
it's
we're
it,
we're past that. I mean, I'm past that
yeah,
too.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
thinking about other stuff, and that's the right mindset, bro. I mean, we all have to live and have experiences. But if I tell my nephew, for example, he's way younger, so I tell him, just be mindful of how you spend your money, because you want to make sure you hit my age, or you're 30 something, and now you have a vehicle to hit that age and be very, very, very well off. So
yep,
I set up an account for him. He's 15. I'm just putting, a little bit of fiat every couple of days for him, so he can at least get started,
yep.
and hopefully he becomes, he learns about it or whatever. So that's cool.
I
That's
love that, man.
that's what I could do. Yeah, for the newest generation. I don't talk about real estate. I don't talk about none of that. Just go straight to Bitcoin. And I use
Well,
Strike too. I love Strike.
yeah, Strike's a great product. And again, it's about dealing with people you guys trust. Like I know Coinbase rolled out a loan product. I don't mind saying it. I don't trust Coinbase. I wouldn't have my Bitcoin in Coinbase. I would have it in somebody who is Bitcoin only, right? If you're Bitcoin only as a person, as like if that's what you believe, why would you be buying on an exchange that's not Bitcoin only? You don't want your Bitcoin collateralized with all these other bullshit assets that, these other Coinbases of the world are kind of are lumping everything in together with. So if you guys are listening to this and you're Bitcoin only and you're on Coinbase or you're on Robinhood, like again, I have opinions on Coinbase, but like even Robinhood, I don't have a bad thing to say about them. Just think about it logically. Why not store it with somebody like Strike or River? Those are the two
Swan.
favorites. Yeah, Swan's another one. That those are the ones that I would look at, that are Bitcoin only. And I think, what's cool about this, you just mentioned like you're the one in your family right now talking about Bitcoin, not real estate, not stocks, not all of this other stuff. What's going to be really interesting is 5 to 10 to 15 years down the road when this goes where we think it's going. People are going to look to the people that were telling them about this stuff then, right? Like that's when adoption, that's like the real mass adoption, right? Not when like the original adoption was all of these guys in the corner of the internet, these cypherpunks who like were kind of, and I love the OGs, but like tech nerds, right? Like they just got all this stuff, right? They were in the corners of the internet, or the corners of the internet. The next wave of people like that are going to be normal people that just got it sooner than other people, right? And
Hmm.
think about what that's going to do for adoption, right? All the people here that have a stack now, that 5, 10 years down the road, their lives completely change. And unfortunately, humanity doesn't, humans in general don't respond to what you tell them. They usually respond to what they see. So they may not
Facts.
like Bitcoin now, but a few years down the road, when you're, maybe you take a job in a career that you love that doesn't pay as much, right? Because you're able to, because of Bitcoin. Or maybe you stack enough now that you're actually able to like retire and you're golfing all day. I don't know. You know what I mean? But like those are the things where they're gonna be like, hey, what the like, yo, what was AA doing? Like, why the fuck is he not, why is he not like cleaning shit off the floor? Like, what did he do? Like that's the stuff that's powerful, in my opinion.
Well, well, it's funny you mentioned because recently, probably like 3, 4 weeks ago, I had a lady, coworker, come in, and I was about to send a post to on X, and she looked at my phone and she's like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sending something about Bitcoin." I'm like, "Bitcoin?" And she's like, yeah. I'm like, "Yeah." So she's like, "Oh my God, have you seen the price?" It was like 90, 98
Yeah.
that day, 98, 90 something. "Have you seen the price?" "Oh my God, I missed it 5 years ago. Somebody told me about it 5 years ago and I missed it." Imagine if I, so we started talking, and I put out a video. She just asked me to set it up for her. I set up a recurring buy for her and she bought some Bitcoin that day. But those are the things that are going to happen more and more and more, especially as we get to that level, to the next phase. People are just going to come and be like, "Hey, I remember you talking about this a couple of years ago. Can you tell me a little bit more?"
Yep.
And that's just the adoption phase that we're gonna experience is gonna be insane because more Bitcoiners, the way I see it, trade, we're getting more Bitcoiners, not less Bitcoiners.
Yep.
My family's Bitcoin is a Bitcoin family. The family for my daughter is gonna be a Bitcoin family. And the people that come after is gonna, so that's just the way it's gonna be. So,
Well, that's the
it's beautiful.
that it is beautiful, man, and that's the difference between that's the fundamental difference right there between Bitcoin and shitcoins is like Bitcoin has created a positive experience for so many people that more people keep coming into it. With shitcoins and rug pulls, it creates negative experiences, dude. So that's why like
Like
that's
100%.
why it doesn't breed the same way. Like you said, it's a Bitcoin family and then a Bitcoin family and a Bitcoin family. Like that's because we've all had positive experience with it. It's cuz Satoshi didn't rug pull, you know what I mean? Like it's that sort of thing, right? It's
Imagine,
yeah.
imagine me
Yeah.
I mean, years from now, talking to I don't know, my daughter, or whatever, and be like, "Oh, our Bitcoin reserve, oh, not our Bitcoin, our reserve was based on something like XRP or
Yeah.
something like Cardano or something like." That's just, I don't I like, doesn't even add up, talking about that,
Well,
because it's just
when they sell it, they buy Bitcoin. That's how you know. It's like when you sell it and you make a profit, what do they buy? They buy Bitcoin. That
Bitcoin.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. It's
I don't know how people can, I mean, I know why, but hopefully what we're doing, people like you and me, podcasts like yours, Stacy, and everybody that's coming into the space. We just educate the new generation, and they can see the true value, and they put their energy and their time into this new asset, which
Yep.
is the whole point.
Yep. And I agree with you, man. I think education is so important. That's like the main mission with this whole thing, man, is like I love that Stacy's podcast is taking off. I love seeing all the podcasts in the space. Like everybody's got a different voice and everybody vibes with different people. You know what I
a
mean?
hundred
So like
percent.
all of that is good for all of us, right? Aligned
E-
incentives. Yep.
Exactly. Everybody has their voice, their story. My story is so simple. If you just want to save your money and just have a better life in the future for you and your family, this is the way. This is the way to go. And everybody goes into Bitcoin for different reasons. For me, I was the saver, the workaholic, that I had some extra cash, wanted to put it away and hopefully grow. And it wasn't working. It was the system is not designed to make it work for you. It used to be like that, not anymore. It hasn't been like that for a while. So we now have this vehicle, and the beauty of it, you don't have to deal with anybody. It's just like buy and hold versus the real estate. Coming back to the topic, it's just, I mean, for a guy like me, that you just want to have a couple doors here and there, cash flowing, it takes a lot of job. It takes a lot of time away from family too, to be
Yep.
honest.
Yep. And that's part of the conversation shift too that I feel like is going on is like people are starting to know that it's a savings technology. It's not an investment. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's more of a conversation now than there was 4 years ago about people being like, "Oh, you invest in Bitcoin." Like a lot of people still ask that, but there's also a lot of people that are like, "Oh, you buy Bitcoin?" Like, yeah, I buy Bitcoin too. And like buying it versus like you invest in it, I feel like is a subtle shift, but it is a big shift. Like and I tell people too when the still the ones that are like you invested, I'm like, no, like I don't trade it, man. Like I buy it. Like when are you and they're like, when are you gonna sell it? I'm like, dude, if you knew where this is going, you wouldn't even ask me that question. And that kind of piques people's curiosity. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, brother, we'll go down the rabbit hole. But I feel like it's shifting that like if I would have went to my parents and said, hey guys, invest in this, you're gonna make a ton of money right away. Like it's just setting the wrong expectation because nobody knows short term what's going to happen with price, right? Um, and for them, I was like, hey, you buy this and you guys don't look at it or think about selling it for 10 years. And then 10 years later, if you guys want to sell it, I'll talk to you guys about doing that. You know what I mean? Because it's like that's such a long time horizon that they're going to see it in 10 years and be like, oh shit, it's $1 million a coin. You know what I mean? Or, oh shit, it's 10 million. We don't know. 10 million, who knows? But that sort of paradigm shift, I think when you're trying to talk to new people and get them into Bitcoin, it's like, hey, you're not going to make a ton of money quick. It's like this is your only option. Like that's why Bitcoin's so powerful. It is the only lifeboat. There's no other lifeboat. That's it.
And there's so many stories, man, that I see online. I mean, people post it all the time, and everybody is the same. The moral of the story is the same. Whoever sells their Bitcoin, they always regret it because they never get to have whatever they have before they sold it. So they made huge profits, and the story always goes the same. I sold it in 2017. I made this ton of money. Now I have way less Bitcoin. I regret
Yep.
it so much. And it's over and over and over. And it's going to happen in 5 years. It's going to happen in 10 years. It's going to happen in 15 years. That's never going to change. That's why
Yep.
I'm so afraid of, I mean, whenever you want to get humble a little bit about Bitcoin, just take a look at those stories. And also, something very, very critical for you to see is the price of everything against Bitcoin. You
Yep.
want to have a reality check? Take a look at everything, you name it, and put it against Bitcoin. And you're going to have like a reality. You're going to be like, oh my God, this
Yep.
is
You just see
insane.
all that stuff going down and to the right, dude.
Going down, bro. Going down. There's a friend of ours in the community, Rusty. And the other day he started posting about it. Everything. I mean, Cigars. I like cigars, so I smoke cigars. So I was
Yep.
about to buy a box of cigars, and he sent me these post
I
pricey
saw.
cigars against Bitcoin. I
Yeah.
was like, oh shit. Now I don't want to
Yeah.
buy cigars anymore.
No, I hear you, man. No,
So
dude, I
those
agree with you.
things keep you focused, those kind of stuff. You like, I need to have more because in the future, this everything is going to zero pretty much against
Yeah.
Bitcoin. It's the reality, bro. You just gotta have
Yep.
a long time horizon. That's it.
Yeah, and I think the reason I wanted to have this conversation tonight too is because I do think that real estate is going to be the last thing to go to zero against Bitcoin. But I do think it's coming. Like, at some point, it already. I mean, it is a little bit. When I talk about that, I mean like the demonetization of you know
Yeah, yeah, the of
real
the
estate.
asset. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
100%. It's happening already, brother. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. People talking about it, selling their second, their third, their fourth home, their vacation home, for Bitcoin. It's happening already.
yep,
And it's gonna just accelerate. It's just that it's just a fact.
yep, yeah. I think there's going to be people
And that's
to your.
good too, Is that good too? Because in a sense, those houses need to go to people that really need it,
Yep,
like people that don't have a house, a family starting a family, a couple starting a family that they really need that home, and they fall in love with the house instead of hoarding two, three houses because you're just trying to save. So everybody's gonna get what they need, I'm getting my savings technology, so I'm getting out of that, leaving you with the property that you're looking for your family and your future, and it's just gonna be beautiful for everybody, and the
well,
way it's
with
supposed to be honest.
Yeah, what's interesting about that I didn't even think about till now is like think about that as a bigger scale. You know how people were worried like BlackRock was buying all the single family homes and stuff like that? When BlackRock starts allocating a big portion of not their clients' money for the ETFs, that's completely different, right? That's their clients' money. That has nothing to do with BlackRock's balance sheet. But when BlackRock starts allocating portions, sizable portions into Bitcoin, versus taking that money and putting it into the housing market. Like that is a good thing for
a hundred
humanity.
percent.
That is a
Yeah.
good thing for
And
humanity.
eventually, they will sell some of that portfolio in real estate to convert it to Bitcoin. It's just going to happen. You
Yep.
think it's not going to happen? That's going to happen. And those houses are going to be back to the market for the market for the people who really need them at a
Yep.
price that they can afford and deserve, because they come down to the utility
Well, and
price,
you
not the inflated price like it
and
is
you
right
think
now.
about foreign investors that buy houses over here because of the real like all of that stuff now. Like if you're a foreign investor, do you want to buy a house that you're never going to use that's going to fall apart over time in another country just because the country's secure, even though you can't get, you know what I mean? You don't live there. There's not like you can't manage it.
You
That
probably
money,
haven't even seen the house ever in your life. You just
well,
saw a picture of somebody told.
there's empty buildings in New York owned by like, Russian oligarchs. You know what I mean? Because they're just putting their money into something that's not going to lose value, you know?
100%. Yeah.
And all of that stuff is super powerful. So I want to be respectful of your time, man. I appreciate you coming on. Do you want to
Thanks,
touch
Trey, brother.
on? Do you want to touch on what are your thoughts on the GameStop release today?
Bro, everything is bullish for Bitcoin. I know you have the people that they don't like the institutions coming in. I think it's Bitcoin's for everybody. This was hinted to us a while ago by Sailor when they had this picture taken in, I think it was Mar-a-Lago with
Yep,
the CEO. I forgot his name.
Ryan
Forgot the
Cohen.
name of
Yep,
Ryan. And just like GameStop, it's just one after the other, one after the other one. There's gonna be another one, and eventually we're gonna get the big ones. You're gonna get the Apples of the world. We're gonna get the Microsoft. They're just coming. They just don't know it yet. You know,
yeah,
GameStop. I'm super excited. I heard they have a pretty good uh, cash on the balance sheet. Uh, I don't know, a few billions,
four point six.
which
Yep,
4.6. So that's, they're going to convert some of that. I don't know how much, but what I know is for a fact they're going to eventually convert all of it
yep,
to it, like
yep,
every other company. And they have Sailor on their team, on the ears, guiding them. and that's awesome. They seeing what happens to this company, all these zombie companies that nobody even knew they existed. They're now on the Bitcoin standard and they're doing pretty well. So people are taking a look at it. And on GameStop actually is really good catalytic for that because a lot of eyes are on GameStop because of the history that he has with
Yeah, the meme
the
trading, the memes.
meme
Yeah,
trades and the shorting and the squeezing and the whole history behind it. So I think it's a uh, really good news for the Bitcoin space, for Bitcoin, and just for plebs like us. It's a positive. It's just also a negative because you're getting less corn for your money.
yeah,
So hurry
exactly,
up.
exactly.
So
No,
hurry
I
up,
I
bro.
agree with you, man, and I think Bitcoin Twitter's been kind of split over the is Sailor acquiring too much? We don't want these institutions coming in. Well, I have news for everybody on Twitter. It's money for whoever. And if you don't like it, you're missing the fucking point. Like anybody
So
can buy it.
imagine,
That's the point. That's the whole point of it.
imagine, imagine being upset at something that you cannot control of. You know, we cannot. This was inevitable. It wasn't. It was either Sailor, somebody else, some other company will do it.
Yep.
This is just something that you cannot control. I'm sorry to tell you to break the news for you, but Bitcoin's for everybody. And whoever sees value and understands value, like Sailor does, and these companies now are doing, they're gonna go for it, and they're gonna go
Yeah.
hard. You know, and we're going to the next phase now. Countries, way until these countries start popping right and left, you're gonna be like, oh shit, this is getting really serious right now. Because right now, our companies, institutions, the next phase are gonna be nation states
Yep.
openly telling you,
Well, I mean,
um,
Sailor's buying like a nation state right now. You know what I mean? Like when you
yeah.
look at the like
hmm
he's got more coins than any other country in the world. So like
I think it's number
it's
three. I think
yeah,
three or four. It was
yeah, it's
Satoshi, BlackRock, I think, and then Sailor.
yes,
No,
it is. It is. And a lot of those coins, though,
It's-
like it's really Sailor number two because a lot of those coins that BlackRock has are for the ETFs or for their clients. It's not like their balance sheet,
correct. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah.
Sailor's. It's Satoshi and Sailor are one and two, and again,
Uh,
strategy is buying it on behalf of their treasury, not necessarily their clients, but their shareholders. So like that's the other thing too, man, is like this stuff's going to continue to happen. It's going to like this means that we're winning, dude. Like this is what winning feels
we're
like.
winning, bro.
And this is what winning
and
feels
and
like.
Sailor's not gonna stop. He doesn't have a number in his head. You know his number. What you know what it is? And he said it. He said it. He said it a couple times. He won't stop. There's not a specific target that he's trying to reach. He's just gonna, as long as he can, he will buy this thing forever.
Yep.
And I truly believe he will. And he has shown commitment. I mean, he hasn't stopped. It doesn't matter if it's $1 million, 100,
Yep.
5 millions. You just keep eating this, and companies are feeling the same way. Meta Planet is another one that
Yep.
they're not playing. They're not playing. They're coming in hard. So it's just
Yeah.
gonna keep going.
No, I hear you, man. I feel the same way. This is what winning feels like. And as long as these people aren't trying to change the protocol, then you can't do anything to stop them. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Exactly.
If they start trying to mess with shit, then I'm all for it. Go after them, right? And the whole community will rise up, just like when they said they were going to add shit coins to the SBR. You know what I mean? Everybody rose up and everybody was like, no, fuck you guys, bad idea. Like that's what would happen if any of these
Ex-
guys, got into it.
exactly. That's the beauty of Bitcoin too. So don't mess with my savings technology. Use
Yep.
it to your advantage, but don't mess with it, bro. I'm happy
Yep.
the way it is. So it's
Exactly.
working. It's been working, and it's gonna continue working as long as people don't mess with that.
Yep. And when they do, we gotta get the fuck after them. That's it. That's
Well,
that's when
yeah,
they.
we're gonna
That's
we're
when
gonna
we.
get we're gonna get toxic. We're gonna get toxic for sure.
Yep. That's it. Cool, man. Well, it was a pleasure having you on here.
Thanks, Trey, bro.
Yeah. Where can people find you? I'll post your X in the show notes so people can find you there as well. But if you want to say it,
Yeah, just X, bro. I mean, I just
is it
check
just
posts every day.
at AA Stack? Is that it?
At AA Stack. Yeah.
Okay,
I have
cool.
for the first time impersonated a couple days ago.
Yeah,
That was fun.
I'm waiting for me to get there, dude. I'm waiting for me to
That
get
was
there.
that was fun. He was suspended within the fucking 2 hours. He was suspended. The Bitcoin army that you part of.
Yeah,
They reported him, and it was cool to watch that support. But yeah,
yeah,
A Stack on Twitter, on X, and let's connect. Whoever wants to connect with me, it'll be fun.
yep. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming on. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and keep stacking.
Thanks, Trey.